can't wrap my head around that. It is completely deplorable, and that's why it's hard to even like uncover these stories.
The most progressive president that we had at that time was assassinated in 1963. It has you wondering, was he going to expose the CIA during that time?
It even felt like somebody was sticking me with a million pins, just everywhere. Oh, it just.
Welcome everybody to the first edition Conspiracy Corner. We're open and we're not starting small. So, a couple days ago, June 30th, 2026, Congress held its first public hearing on MKUltra since 1977. A CIA whistleblower testified that 40 boxes of MKUltra files were removed from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence during declassification review. Removed. Now, while they were still being processed to be released, they were removed. And the congresswoman running the said hearing on record said that new MKUltra documents are in the process of being declassified right now. 50 years later, they're still not done.
Now, before we go anywhere, we gotta set a standard on conspiracy corners. This is our first inaugural episode, so let's set the standard. All right.
My man.
We said it when we did the hologram episode. This is our first official episode, but we did our hologram episode where we talked about this conspiracy about us being holograms. But right here, on this episode, you are either dumb or you're really smart when you talk about conspiracy theories, right? And dumb means you repeat things you cannot prove. What I want to set the standard of is that smart means the difference between what's confirmed and what's plausible and what's complete cap. So let's set that standard right now. We want to be smart here. We want to know what's confirmed, what's plausible, what's complete cap. Now tonight's episode is kind of different than any other conspiracy corner we're going to ever do, or maybe not, because some of these things be real, So, but because we dead ass, like more and more we live in a strange world, things come out, and you find out that the conspiracies are not so much conspiracy. Epstein, for goodness sake, because because tonight, everything about MKUltra we're going to tell you is kind of completely confirmed, okay? But we're going to give you and just kind of recap what it is and why it's such an important conspiracy theory as it pertains to the American government. Now we're going to tell you what's documented, what's declassified, and we're going to explain what was happening when they got testified in front of Congress. Because this is not a theory, it's not a rumor, it's not something that your cousin told you. Now it's for sure happened. The United States government drugged its own citizens without consent. They ran secret operations in American cities, let a man die after dosing him with LSD, and they destroyed the evidence. And then they paid families with gag orders. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the CIA's own record.
So, as my guy is laying down the foundation, here's what we got for Conspiracy Corner. The question we're adding on top of it all. Because the confirmed facts are wild enough. Like, he just said it. They ran experiments, secret operations on cities. They created LSD, destroyed evidence, paid families off with gag orders. So again, confirmed facts, wild enough. The question that we bring in right now and we're going to get into is, did they ever stop? Because one witness at that Tuesday's hearing, a Brown University professor who wrote the definitive book on the program, said on the record that covert agencies may now have access to tools for mind control that the original MKUltra director couldn't even imagine. Now let's think about that for a minute. Tonight, we give you everything that's confirmed, and then we ask the question that nobody at the hearing is asking out loud. This is the conspiracy corner, and we about to get into it. Let's go.
Peace. Good shit. Good shit. Good shit. Now, for conspiracy thought corner, we want to start from the beginning. We want to let y'all know and set the stage for what MK Ultra is. I'll be honest with you, me myself, I'm a novice when it comes to this topic. Me and Chris, we interviewed a freshman wrestler Loki back in the day, and I laughed in his face when he brought MK Ultra up. Not because I didn't think it was not true, but because I thought it had nothing to do with the Black Lives Matter movement and what we were talking about at the time. But that's neither here nor there. I'm always been a guy who I try to see the best in people. I try to see the best in our government. I try to see the best in like how we can move forward in things. And a lot of people's perspective is they don't trust nothing that the government says. And when I look into MK Ultra, I gotta be honest with you, I get it. I get why people have this distrust of the government, why they have the distrust of making things, actually trying to make things better. And then when you look into the media and who's in office now and things are going on now, it makes it even more hard to completely trust where the government is coming from. So tonight we're gonna dive into MK Ultra. I'm your host Chitty Bang. This is my co-host, Joint Rollo Ayatollah himself, Chris the Most High. We are Everything Is, where we are the zeitgeist, we are the culture, and tonight is Conspiracy Corner MK Ultra. How you feeling, brother?
I'm honestly, I'm very excited about this. We planned for, I believe, about 2 weeks, for us to establish like an anchor, a anchor episode of this show, right? To Because we're a variety show. Like, let's be honest, like
Yeah.
we are a variety show. So to give our audience an anchor day to be like, I fuck with them. I fuck with the little homie that got the pinpoint
Tinfoil
on the
hat.
head. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I wanted us to. I really like the brand. And to be quite honest, this was really something organic because originally when we started off with trying to, what is our show? What are we going to talk about? What are our topics? We took out conspiracy because we didn't want to be kind of that
Well, I
show.
took out
Like we,
conspiracy for our marketing one page because I know it could deter people from advertisements. However,
However, this might be something that we need to highlight on that motherfucking one
yeah,
page.
because but I want to also like just come at it from a place like we always do, from a place of educating and a place of informing, a place of not
Absolutely,
ignorance, not just like I
absolutely.
feel like the government, is keeping so much from us, and let's talk about, whatever random place your mind goes where it kind of like, makes you feel like you said, there's a smart way to talk about it, and there's a dumb way to talk about it, and I don't want to just be those dumb podcasters that talk conspiracy theories and have no like they don't talk trust in science. They just say whatever they think the world's flat, and not that there might not be evidence for these things, but I'm just saying that there's also counter, there's counter angles that they just completely dismiss, and I don't like that. I don't like those
Well,
counter angles being dismissed when I hear
well, I
other
mean,
conspiracy theories being talked about.
I would say this though, let's be real though, just me and you, before this week's, because this passed through you. This week we've been really politically heavy. We've been talking about other things that's been happening in politics. So this kind of even flew under your radar. But
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, before this week and it being confirmed in Congress, would you have identified this MK Ultra as one of those theories that you wouldn't kind of give much thought to?
I don't give much thought to conspiracy theories altogether. I'm not that type of person, but I'm open to hearing. Like, I'm never going to be like, I think they're theories for a reason. But prior to this hearing, um, I even before I this hearing, I think there was evidence But I just think that I didn't do the research, and I don't like giving a statement on things until I do my own research. I can't just go off of what low key tells me and be like, okay, yeah, let me just believe everything low key said because it has to be true. No, I think he said it for a reason. I think there's something to it. I got down to do my own research. I just because you know, who doesn't matter who is, you can be president of the United States. I can't just take your word for it. Let me look into it myself. Let me see if there's any books on it. Let me see if there's any articles I can read. That's where I come from.
Well,
And
I'm
I
glad
leave
that
I
I'm
don't I
glad
don't
that
I
you
don't
said
go
that.
from a place of nothing. Like I don't say I can't not know nothing and say it's wrong. You know what I mean? I can't say that I didn't believe it.
Well,
I can't say
a
I
lot of
did
people
either.
a lot of people do that based off of, again, not everybody's not willfully ignorant, but ignorant is lack of knowledge, right? So I'm really
Mhm.
honestly, I respect what it is that you're saying and where you're coming from, because again, everything we're about to talk about right now is documented.
Mhm. Yeah.
Everything that we have pushbacks for everything that's cap. We have question marks for things are plausible, but we have stone cold hard green check mark documented facts, so we can educate not only ourselves but the people who's tapped in. So when we bring it up in our monologue, they dosed Americans with LSD without consent.
That happened.
When we say they built
That I
fake
knew happened.
brothels
Yeah.
to drug strangers, when we say they wiped people's minds clean at the hospital in Montreal and then burned the evidence, this was all something that was brought back to life in Congress after hearing about it for 50 years, right? So the
Montreal, bro. They're
conspiracy
doing that
of
shit in
things,
Canada.
that's what I'm trying to say. Like, so when we're saying like this is a worldwide phenomenon of something, right? I think the legion of those people who do participate with this are are vindicated more than they have ever been, especially when, again, it's declassified, so it means it can be open and brought to the public, and now all of a sudden it's removed when we already know you got a habit of burning down evidence, when we know you already got a habit of motherfucking hiding things. And then our biggest question, me and you, when we talk, you ask, why would the government do that, Chris?
Uh-huh.
Your biggest thing is like, can
Give
follow
me
you if you give me a
a
reason
logical
why.
reason why they are doing this conspiracy. What is the purpose behind it? If I can put the two and two together, then I can see it can be plausible at that point. But once you just give me like, yo, we're closed, and I'm like, okay, what's the purpose of that? Like, I can't. I can follow it when you give me, okay, they're doing it because of this reason, and this is what they're trying to accomplish by doing that. Now with
I
MK
mean, we
Ultra,
we we only open up our eyes to find out that they're making us docile and dumb when we're reading over what they're doing and dismantling the Department of Education. But the
I've
conspiracy
known that for a
for
long
a
time. So
long
yes,
time, though, was that they're trying to make us dumb, make us sheep, make us cattle. Like, they have been trying to orchestrate this. And now with the ideology of they've been drugging us without our consent, or certain, you know what I mean? Like, so like now you're just like, damn, that's the entryway
there,
for
oh,
niggas
there's
to
and
now.
ooh, so, we're gonna watch a video just to
Go
introduce
ahead.
MK
All
Ultra
right,
to
my
you
guy.
guys.
Yes, yes, sir.
But there's even more that I want to get to after this MK Ultra, where I might be the conspiracy theorist more than Chris for this situation because. But we'll talk about it later because it does tie into something that's beyond the government trying to drug people. Well, it's the government trying to drug people, but on a mass scale. All right, check this video out. We're gonna get into the history of MK Ultra.
April 13th, 1953, CIA Director Alan Dulles gave a speech about the dangers of communism and the war of the mind. The federal government was haunted by the fear of communism and believed it spread rapidly at this time because the Soviets mastered the art of mind control. Sandwiched between the aftermath of World War II and the beginnings of the Cold War, intelligence agencies believed foreign brainwashing could indoctrinate the American people. As a result, a classified project was created to emulate manipulate the communist mind control programs, effectively fighting fire with fire. There are several speculations as to why MKUltra began, but one fact remains. People in power justified pushing the boundaries of known science and warfare by committing human rights violations under the guise of intelligence. MKUltra's clandestine tests took place in universities, hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical centers all across the United States and Canada. One of the most famous testing sites was the Allen Memorial Institute, or the Ravenscrag, at McGill University in Montreal. These top-secret experiments and procedures were led by Sidney Gottlieb, the United States spy master and mad chemist who financed and developed, quote, techniques that would crush the human psyche to the point that it would admit anything. MKUltra was preceded by Project Bluebird and Project Artichoke, two projects originating in the 1940s. The goal of Project Bluebird was to train subjects through hypnosis and behavior modification so that it would be impossible for enemies of the United States to extract vital information. The goal of Project Artichoke was to examine if a human is capable of attempting an assassination.
Wait. You're muted.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
To throw a conspiracy within the conspiracy for Project Bluebird, if you're listening, a lot of people are saying like that was Twitter. Like a lot of people are saying like the reincarnation of Project Bluebird, where you just hear the description of behavior control. If you see how people, if you can see the development of how they say Twitter is toxic, if people left Twitter and we have grouped people to be there and think and react a certain type of way, people are trying to indicate that was one of the new technologies that has been re-implemented, as MKUltra has never been stopped. So that was just my little tidbit that I wanted to throw in there real quick.
Okay. All right.
Without hesitation. Methods used include hypnosis, forced substance addiction, and forced substance withdrawal. MKUltra, the final evolution of its 1940s predecessors, employed a variety of techniques to influence the minds and brains of its subjects, including the covert administration of high doses of psychoactive substances, in most cases LSD, also known as lysergic acid diethylamide, a powerful hallucinogen. This CIA project used a cocktail of chemicals and drugs such as barbiturates, amphetamines, and hallucinogens to put their subjects in a comatose state, while also violently snapping them back to reality.
All right. All right, before we continue, because we'll get more into how they administer these trials, these studies. But I wanted to just explain a little bit more about this guy. That's his name, excuse me. Not Sidney Gottlieb. This all starts from Dulles. Yes, it all starts from Dulles. So, the reason why this is even a thought, the CIA, Alan Dulles, exactly. The reason why this is even a concern, or why he was, so essentially, Alan Dulles was a CIA director during the Korean War, and during the Korean War, like when the war ended, American POWs essentially started doing something that just shocked the country. High-ranking officers, like really high in the military, who were captured, men who had been trained to resist interrogation, were appearing on camera, making detailed confessions to war crimes they almost certainly hadn't committed. Now, Colonel Frank Schwabel, the highest-ranking American officer captured in Korea, confessed on camera to conducting germ warfare and dropping anthrax and plague on Korean civilians. The U.S. military categorically denied this ever happened, but there was Schwabel looking directly at the camera, giving a detailed, calm, seemingly voluntary confession. So that's where it started, and then it got worse because out of 7,200 American prisoners of war, um, sorry, let me unmute you just in case you want to say something. Prisoners of war, more than out of 7,200 American prisoners of war, more than 5,000 either signed petitions urging the U.S. government to end the war or signed confessions to crimes they had committed. And when the war ended, 21 American soldiers refused to come home. They chose to stay in communist China. 21 American men chose to stay voluntarily, or at least it looked voluntarily. So the American public essentially had no way to like explain this. They had no framework of explaining. Okay, we went to war with these countries. They're saying they commit all these atrocities on camera, and some of them want to stay. They're signing to end the war. Okay, why are our people acting this way? People who've been trained this way. These are regular American soldiers that seem to have completely had their minds completely changed, and now that we start seeing the population of the word brainwashing, which is how the CIA the term was coined by CIA propaganda operative named Edward Hunt in 1950, and it gave the public a scary explanation to fit scarier evidence essentially because it wasn't really brainwashing, but it was torture. So Dulles took all of this information and all this public outcry of like what's going on with these soldiers, and he completely ran with it. So on April 10th, 1953, he gave a speech at Princeton alumni conference describing what he called Soviet brain perversion techniques, and he said the Soviets had found a way to condition human minds to stop reacting on free will and instead respond to impulses implanted from outside. Okay,
Like Winter Soldier,
like
if
Winter
you've ever
Soldier,
watched,
exactly.
Marvel, my nigga. You
Uh
know
huh.
what I'm saying?
Manchurian Candidate type shit.
Winter Soldier.
Yeah. So now Dulles commissioned his own scientific study of the Korean War, uh, of the prisoners of war, and two neurologists from Cornell Medical Center, including Harold Wolf, who was a personal friend of Dulles. They investigated the phenomena. So they watched all the tapes. They investigated the individuals, and their conclusion was that there was no evidence of drugs, no evidence of hypnosis, no evidence of sophisticated science. What broke these men was very simple, and it was far more brutal. Sleep deprivation, isolation, stress positions, endless interrogation, and being forced to stand in the same spot for hours until they agreed to sign whatever was in front of them. So they were not brainwashed, they were just simply tortured until they said what their captors wanted them to say. There was no magic Soviet mind control weapon, it was just old fashioned brutality. Now, Dulles, this is where it gets sick. Dulles buried the report. After doing the research, finding out, hey man, they just got tortured and they caved. He buried the report, and then 3 days after his Princeton speech, while the commissioning the very study that would have debunked his own stated fears, he signed an authorization for MKUltra. So he already knew or was about to know that Soviets did not have what he claimed they had, and he launched the program anyways. So in our opinion, like this is probably one of the most important details that kind of gets overlooked is that this whole MK Ultra thing didn't need to start because he did his own research based on the soldiers that were saying these things after the Korean War that they didn't do, and it determined that it was just torture. They were just tortured. They were brutalized through torture. It wasn't some crazy mind control science that they figured out. But it didn't matter to him. He pushed forward and used this as the reasoning to start these programs, these MK Ultra programs.
Now to everything that you just kind of articulated, like you said, at first there was no need for it, right? But ultimately, ultimately they decided that it was going to be done. And at least 149 sub-projects were reported on.
Yeah.
More than 80 institutions were infiltrated with this. We're talking about universities, as they said, hospitals, like they said in the video, prisons, like they said, mental health facilities, 185 non-government researchers.
Yeah. And so you got to think of MKUltra kind of like a file cabinet, and inside that cabinet there's 149 like separate folders. Each folder essentially is a sub-project. Each sub-project is a specific experiment that they were trying to, test on the civilians. A specific place where they want to research with the budget in its own separate location, its own researchers, and its own specific question trying to answer. Some projects were about drugs. Some, um, specifically which ones could make the person tell the truth, the drug ones, and forget that they've been interrogated. That's what they were trying to accomplish with the drug, and then also become like fully obedient. Some were about hypnosis, so another place would have a whole section about hypnosis. Some were about sensory deprivation. Some were about whether you could put a record message on loop and play it while someone's sleeping, and long enough for them to believe what was said on, the recording. Some were about radiation. Some were about electroshock therapy, and each one of them had its own project. So none of the researchers working on one sub-project necessarily knew anything about the others, which is why this kind of was like seemed like an urban legend for a while, because you can't compare. It was hard to know what one.
Identified.
Yeah. So
And not only that, the
it's very.
CIA is funding it too. Like that,
Exact-
like come on. Like
Well,
the
here's the
government's
thing.
funding
No, I
this,
got I gotta tell you about this because it was very compartmentalized. So the left hand did not know what the right hand was doing with a lot of these things situation. And a researcher at Harvard working on sleep deprivation, so he would have no idea a researcher at Stanford was working on LSD. So that's how it was going on. And
Mm.
when you say CIA was funding this, let me see if I can find the information because they didn't come out there and say, "Hey, man, we're the CIA. We want to fund some experiments." Because these are academics. Academics would have questions on like what you
Absolutely.
know. So that's not what they did. What they did essentially was start up these charities and come in as a charity. And oh my goodness, bro, who knows what their charities are going to be doing, bro?
Bro, this is what I'm trying to tell you, nigga. This shit is wild, nigga. Like,
This is
yes, they
yeah. So
dressed up. Yo, if you ever saw silicone mask, and I know me and you talked about this before, I have to, but like realistic, like niggas put on the silicone mask, change their face, put on the motherfucker, and presented themselves as a hi, I'm John Brown, and I'm representing this charity. We want to go ahead and donate $150,000 to the University of California, Berkeley. And these niggas they peeled niggas' fingerprints or fingerprints off and seen if they could have sensory motherfucking like demarcation and shit like that,
yeah,
man. Like
yeah, it's
crazy.
it's 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 sick, man. When you look at like they're like this rabbit hole, it goes deep because man, we'll continue. We'll continue. Let's show y'all more of the video and what they were doing with these people, so you get a better picture of what is going on here.
This was carried out by injecting a barbiturate in a subject's arm and then an amphetamine in the other, often resulting in death. One of the main scientists responsible for the horrific practices of MKUltra was Dr. Donald Ewan Cameron. Cameron invented two medical torture techniques that were repeated until the unwilling subject's mind was effectively broken, though not all subjects received the same treatment or torture. First, Cameron utilized a technique known as psychic driving. Patients were frequently exposed to hundreds of thousands of repeats of a single remark, which would theoretically change their behavior. Then, the subject met the wrath of Cameron's second technique. Depatterning was the chronological successor to psychic driving, which is when the test subject undergoes massive doses of electroconvulsive therapy, combined with equally large doses of psychedelic drugs. One can only imagine what truly happened to some of these people, where they are now, and if they remember anything, if they survived.
Tell me about the acid.
I'd rather not. It's a bad trip. It's a bad trip. That was a bad trip. The pain was so excruciating, felt like somebody was sticking me with 1,000,000 pins. You know, just everywhere. Oh, it just... Ow.
You want to start for me?
It's hard to watch, man. It's hard to watch because they broke these people. You know, they broke these people. And
And they did it with malicious intent, right? Like it off the and they picked on the weak. They picked on the disenfranchised. They picked on prisoners, right? They picked on the sick, right? Like you're already in the hospital anyway. Just sign this waiver. Let me go ahead and see. And they could have presented it and said, "This could help your disease." You never know how it was
Or
presented.
do you want some,
Do you want some time
trust?
shaved off your prison time, like your term? You're like you never know how it's presented.
They can say, we're doing some experimental drug that can help you with something, and we want to see if we have research that we could, with electroshock therapy cure your schizophrenia or whatever. I'm not sure if you've ever seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's also a film that kind of like I think pulls from these real stories about MKUltra and how they chose to subjugate the people who are mental institutions to certain tests and to make them more docile and subordinate, and it's tough. That's one of my favorite performances of Jack Nicholson. It probably that film made me believe that Jack Nicholson one of the best actors I've ever seen. But it's hard to watch because you're seeing them just portray something that's a true reality in our life that everybody they called everybody loons and crazies, and they put them in, they locked them up, and then they got treated however, and then the government is not there to protect them. As a matter of fact, the government used that as an opportunity to exploit them, and
Yep.
it kills me because I think that we talked about people with autism now a little bit more knowledgeable about things. Before they just threw them away, all types of people, they would call people, oh, they're a mute, they're this, they're that, they're a loon, they're crazy, they would just put lump these people together and say that they are a burden on society and put them away. So they would then get abused by people that they were supposed to protect them. But to think that now you're using the human body as some kind of like lab rat to then dissect because you believe that the Soviet Union has some kind of technology that can control people's minds and you have to beat them on the race to doing that is completely sick. And this is why I always go back to anybody who is in government. You got to have a level of respect for human life because the more power you get, the less the less you are attached to the most disenfranchised people. And without that respect of human life, you can commit crazy atrocities, and we're seeing that today. And when, it's like the people when they get in power, they completely go nutty with this power. This guy, Alan Dulles, knew before MKUltra began that the Soviet Union did not have no mind control drug or situation where they control these soldiers. Nigga, they just got tortured. So what did he do? He chose to take that torture that they endured and saw, wow, they got them to say things they didn't do. They got them to, completely, denounce us and stay in China. Let me do that to my own people. That was the mindset of the CIA director. And I just can't wrap my head around that. I can't wrap my head around that. It is completely deplorable, and that's why it's hard to even like uncover these stories because you don't want to believe it. It's like we talked about ignorance being bliss, and a lot of people don't know it, but yeah, you start to realize that we can't trust the government because they're here to exploit you. So if they're not willing to take care of, we're not willing to take care of, people, and you're going to use them to drug them, put a barbiturate in one arm and a stimulant in the other arm, and then they pass away. And like, oh, you move on from that. Let's go to the next person, do the next trials. This is absolutely sick. This is what it's almost like Stranger Than Fiction. We talk about shows like The Boys and shit like that, and Generation V, where we was like, oh, they had a test lab of students, and we're trying to test them to see if they get superpowers. That's what they were fucking doing, just to see if they can control them, though. Not even to help the person; it's for them to control this human being. And if they don't have respect for human life, people can do anything, and that's the scary part.
Well, I think that goes back to now leading into the remainder of what all this became to be. Right? We got into the beginning. You got more of the video. I
I
know
do
we. I
got
know
more of
my
the
more.
video, but I want to explain a little bit more about how they infiltrated these 80 institutions. So I told you that it was through like charity. So this is shocking to me because the CIA knew they couldn't never just walk up to Harvard and John Hopkins and be like, "Hey, man, we'd like to fund some experiments on how to destroy the human mind." They can't just go up and do that. So what they did is because academics have questions, like I said, academics have ethics boards. Academics publish their own findings, and any direct CIA involvement would have triggered exactly the kind of scrutiny the program needed to avoid. So they built fake charities. The primary one was called the Society for Investigation of Human Ecology. It sounds like a perfectly normal research nonprofit, right? But it was affiliated with Cornell University Medical College on paper, and it received approximately 150,000 per year from the CIA. The money was never traced back to the CIA in the accounting records. It then distributed that money as research grants to universities, hospitals, and private researchers. A professor at George Washington University received a grant for sleep and insomnia research. Stanford received money. MIT received money. Princeton, Ohio State, Harvard, the University of Wisconsin all received grants. The researchers thought they were getting private foundation money to do legitimate scientific research. Most of them had no idea the CIA existed anywhere in the transaction. The second
Hmm.
fake charity was the Geischicker Fund for Medical Research, and it was run by a Georgetown University pathology professor named Charles Geischicker. His fund funneled CIA money into Georgetown University Hospital specifically, and as part of the arrangement, the CIA got something in return: access to 1/6 of newly built hospital wing where they could conduct their own experiments on patients who had no idea they were there. Wow. Whew. Think about that.
But
One
that's what I'm
sixth,
saying.
1/6 of a hospital wing at a major American research hospital reserved for the CIA experiments on patients who came in for regular treatment.
But Chidi, can I ask you this now? As you researching this and as you hearing this and as it's being eye opening, we still don't know why. Why? Like like the big question, like why would the government be doing this? Like this is 19 what? This is 1953 it starts? Like what like why are we subjects? Why was I'm
They
I'm
believe the
flabbergasted,
truth of the
bro.
matter is, yeah,
They wanted to control
they were
they
trying to
wanted to
figure out mind control. Like they were really
they
trying to like,
wanted the government was really trying to figure out mind control. They was legit like that has to be the legitimate what was the reason? Do you from the beginning of time when we're talking about manifestos being written, when we talking about memos being written, when we saying people are following edicts, like you don't want to believe that for the course of American history it's been evil, but it's really hard to find a lot of good once you start peeling back the onion, right?
mhm. It really is. It really is. It's just mm, we need to have good people in in high places, like, and that's the thing. Because here's the thing that I struggle with. Let's say the Soviet Union, even if they did have like a brainwashing tool, right, and they brainwashed American soldiers, oh no, you know, then we go ahead and we study and we study and we oh we got a brainwashing tool too. What does that lead to? Like, what is the long game perspective of society at large, or the world at large, if what you're trying to do is harm people and treat them like lab rats to turn them into brainwashed human beings
Well,
that you can control to
I
do
think
whatever
we
the hell
see
you want.
I think we see that over the course of now time in different countries. I think we can if you can just we just said we talked about it. North Korea don't know if Kim Jong Un alive or not because they are under a certain type of control. We talk about how China got them niggas under facial recognition, and yo ass better throw that trash where it's supposed to, nigga, or we down in your motherfucker. Like they control their society, right? We talk about how universally advanced Japan is now. They are a little bit not as strenuous in the eyes of the other two of China and North Korea. But shit, nigga, we don't see a lot of Japanese niggas stepping outside the line.
I don't think
You know
all
what I mean? Like
government. I
it's
think
just
all governments have a sketchy past. I think to control a populace, it's extremely difficult to control this many millions and billions of people and have it be organized and not have people turn over the government and say, yeah, we're taking over this bitch. We don't want to listen to you. Come for
but
your neck.
we're seeing it though. We're
I know,
seeing
I
it.
know. So I think that
But
all governments have some dirt in their past, all of them, every single one across the globe, and are doing dirt now even. Because there's a level of we can't let the people know everything. There's a level of like you talk about declassifying, of classifying things and keeping it away from the public. There's a level of you know, hey man, we might need to covertly do an operation in this country to, stir off the potentialities for a nuclear, situation potentially happening. And what are you willing to do to protect your country against another country? But
yeah,
this is literally harming your own people. To what, help the people in the future? Like, are you? Is your to me, this tells me that it's more about power and control, and that's where I come from. It's not even about benefiting the collective as much as it is we want to have our own soldiers
but I think
that
the government has never been. I'm so sorry, but the government has never been perceived by many, including me. I know me and you have different ideologies that they are trying to help. Like the government has always been perceived in the eyes of many that they're trying to protect the top of the pyramid.
But if they're not trying to help, then we need to. Then what's to stop us from being like, all right, fuck you? You know, that's the thing. There's too many people that agree with the government that do think they're going to help. That's why they are, there's city council people. That's why there's people in the PTA board. That's why people are governors and mayors, and people are going to Senate because they want to help people. They want to be a part of creating this society at large. There's a lot of people that do believe in the system. It's just that there are certain people that when they get into a certain space with power, they use that in very, very nefarious ways. So I asked, why would a government allow this? And the truth of the matter is that most of the government apparently didn't have any idea that this was happening. This is not a defense of the program. It's an explanation of how the architecture specifically was made to prevent anyone in a position to stop it from ever being found out. So in 1953, congressional oversight of the CIA was almost non-existent. There was no Senate intelligence community. There was no permanent body with authority to review what the CIA was doing with its budget or its personnel. The CIA
Okay.
was created in 1947, just 6 years before MKUltra began. So it's just 6 years, and
Okay.
they started going crazy and doing all this crazy shit. And it operated, so with no oversight, this is what human beings think they can do with money. It's crazy. And it operated under the broad mandate that essentially said protect national security and don't tell us how. That's what the CIA was mandated with. Congress was not asking questions; it was not supposed to ask, and the CIA was not volunteering answers to questions nobody was asking.
You see how shady this is. So the beginning of this, as we're seeing and opening up the eyes, is you have a blank check to do what the fuck you want, and we won't ask what you did, and we know you ain't volunteering what you did, and so therefore we have no plausible attachment to where it is. So now when you're saying, but isn't the CIA a part of the government, a part of the, see, this is how when we just talked about independence within the agencies, you see how they, again, but the independence of the CIA has to go with the ideology of an administration,
It's a
right?
matter. It's a matter. The independence is a big portion of this, but what's more to me, the issue was the mandate that they were given: protect national
Yes.
security and don't
What,
tell
and
us
don't
how.
tell us
Because
how.
if you get independence and the mandate is protect consumers, sovereignty, the sovereignty of consumers, and make sure that people don't get taken advantage of by corporations. That's the mandate. You're independent. Figure out how to do that. We'll come in and check every now and then. See make sure no funny business going on. This is what we're funding you to do. That's different than saying protect national security, because then the person's, it's like you give a robot a kill shot, a license to kill, and they gonna kill. That's what you created as a government. So I just think that they should have had some foresight with the CIA, because clearly they I get it. There were in times of war, they were trying to figure out a way to get the upper hand, the edge, but that ain't the way to do it. It's like almost like hiring a hitman and saying, solve some of my problems, but I don't want to know. Don't text me about it. Don't call me about it. Just figure out how to, solve that issue, and I'll try to do it the diplomatic way. You do it with whatever way you can do it.
Well,
Don't,
I mean,
you know.
if you look at the president during that time was Eisenhower, right? And
Mhm.
Eisenhower is synonymous and best remembered by not allowing the Cold War to turn hot,
Yeah.
right? So, like, he was able to sustain economic growth and he modernized the nation's infrastructure. So now we're talking about somebody in 1953 who just been inaugurated as president. When we're talking about 1953, he has an obligation to say, handle this, nigga. And if y'all ever watch Scandal, pretty much the CIA is Huck.
I never watched it
Huck,
yet, but yeah, I heard.
Huck used to get missions from Olivia, and she'd be like, I want to know.
That's the
And that
thing,
nigga
right?
used to sneak. Nigga, that was Huck job, nigga. Put your hand over somebody's mouth, nigga. Put him in the trunk.
Yeah,
So to your point there, like yes, and so Eisenhower was the face to show like, hey, nothing's going on over here. And I'm not saying he instructed them because he didn't create the CIA, right? You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So he didn't create it, but during the time he definitely, I believe, used it.
yeah. Of course. I think that for sure. I think that you definitely are aware. Okay, these are the levers I can pull as a president, and they got the CIA. Boom, they're doing their thing. But to what degree does the president, oversee them? And that's the thing. It seems like earlier on in the inception of the CIA, they didn't have much oversight at all, and that is extremely concerning. Um, Let me see here. So, so even within the CIA itself, MK Ultra was classified so high
Yes,
that most people inside the agency had no idea it existed. The
right.
compartmentalization, the system where each subproject knew only its own piece, meant that even the CIA employees who worked in the same building as people running MK Ultra experiments didn't know. The fake charities meant the money could not be traced. The front organizations meant academic researchers could not connect what they were doing to the CIA. The design of the program was specifically engineered to make it invisible to every accountable mechanism that existed at the time. The people who did know was Alan Dulles and Sidney Gottlieb, and they had a very small circle inside the CIA's Technical Service Division, were the same people whose job it was to decide whether the program should continue. Um, they were investigating themselves essentially. They were the oversight, and they had every professional and ideological reason to keep it going. Like you said, the Cold War was also created a political climate where the phrase national security functioned as a complete override of legal and ethical
Yep.
objections.
As you can see it happening right now.
Exactly, they do
As
that a
you
lot,
as
as
you
you
can
can
see,
see.
this shit,
National
again,
security. It's a national.
a playbook. It's a playbook.
Yeah, we can't be stupid to let them keep on doing the same
Nigga, it's
thing.
Bill. Nigga, I mean, I'm sorry, Bill Walsh, West Coast offense, nigga, still kill. Okay, you see Cal Shanahan, it get advanced. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah.
so as simplistic as you think the West Coast offense is,
hmm
nigga, you fuck around and give some geniuses some time, nigga. It hit you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to put the corner in the right place and the safeties in the right place now. Maybe I can't stop it all, but I gotta stop something.
Yeah,
I gotta stop some of these plays, like with
absolutely,
the national security
absolutely.
word buzzword being used and thrown out there to this day, and then you just believe, oh my God, I'm scared. No, all
Yeah,
right,
we
let me
when
vote
we
for.
hear when we hear national security, we should hear Omaha. Ain't nothing happening. Omaha, nigga, he ain't doing nothing. Stay set, stay set, stay set.
Exactly.
Omaha, nigga, he ain't doing nothing. Stay set, nigga. Like when we hear national security, we should be alert. We're like, okay, they doing something.
All right.
Like national security should be perking up our.
Yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
what are they doing right now? You know what I'm saying? So you're right about that. You're right about that.
They said that this was the McCarthyism America. The Soviet
Mm.
Union had just tested a hydrogen bomb. The Korean War had just ended in a stalemate that felt like defeat. The
Mm-hmm.
public and the political class, which we're about to get into a stalemate now, hopefully, because uh, the public and the
It
political
is gonna be a
class,
stalemate. Korea don't fold, and Iran don't fold, nigga. History will repeat itself.
the public and political, you're so right. The public and political class were genuinely terrified of communism in a way that is hard to fully appreciate today. In that environment. The CIA director could tell the small group of people who needed to know that the United States needed to develop mind control capabilities to protect itself from Soviets. And virtually nobody in the room was going to say no. The fear was real enough that it could justify almost anything. The one moment the program should have been stopped by its own institution was 1963. A CIA inspector general conducted an internal review and found that MK Ultra was conducting experiments on, and this is the CIA's own language, guys, unwitting, non-voluntary human subjects. Crazy. So this is all documented. The inspector general said that this was a problem and recommended the non-consensual experiments to stop. Sidney Gottlieb and MKUltra directors went to CIA's Internal Review Board and argued the research was too important to shut down. The review board sided with them. The watchdog found the abuse. The people being watched convinced the watchdog to look away, and the program continued for another 10 years.
What year was that again? You said 1963?
1963, yeah.
Who was president in 1963? John F. Kennedy. He was assassinated in 1963.
Hmm.
So you think about a nigga coming in, trying to look through the office, he cleaning up the desk, like you said, it's a file cabinet. He like, what the fuck is this? Like, they slam it down, like, hey, don't worry about that. Everybody else that had this job before, don't worry about this. He's looking at it. He's like, hey man, what? Hey man, say man, I don't,
Uh-huh.
and all of a sudden, so the conspiracy kind of just creates its own
Yeah,
thread
it
at that
does. It
point.
does, man. Sure, man. So the government allows because the government that would have stopped it didn't know it was happening, and the government that did know it was happening was running it essentially. Keep on that cap, bro. So so
It's clicking right now, ain't it? Like the realness of how devious and how real, because again, this is not false things. If you're connecting dots, if you're reading what you're saying, like the time that it could have and should have been stopped in 1963, the most progressive president that we had at that time was assassinated in 1963. It has you wondering, was he going to expose the CIA during that time?
it's that's a thought that I can't say is not crossing my mind right now because yeah, man, it's unsuspecting, unwitting people. I've been a person who went into a hospital many times, right? Because I've been sick and growing up, and to think that shit, I went through some crazy shit. I can't even act like I wasn't tortured, but I do believe that that these people went through something that I can't even imagine. So these are people who are looking for help,
Yep.
and they go and they get tortured. They get sleep deprivation experiments put on them. The hospital don't even know they're there because they needed unwitting subjects. No one, these people didn't volunteer for this, guys. I think that's part that hits me the most is that they didn't volunteer for this.
And some
It's
who
it's
possibly did
unconscionable.
volunteered off of false pretenses.
Exactly.
So they
So
really probably do have people who sign waivers who volunteer to go, like, no, not the, my dad, did the go went to the VA to do the sleep apnea thing, what I'm saying, put the mask on and shit, like they, hey, do you want to do that? You volunteer, nigga. You don't know what drip they put in your motherfuckers, you know what I'm saying, like uh, you don't know. And nigga, the VA notorious for fucking somebody shit up. You know what I'm saying? You like say, so like you it's not it's that is something that we would put under the plausible thing. Like, you know
yeah,
what I'm saying? Like, that's not a fact thing. I don't want to present that
yeah,
as fact,
yeah.
but that's something that you will make plausible. Like, okay, when I'm
Kind of connecting
volunteering
the dots.
myself,
Yeah,
nigga, I see they got the commercial for the row shot, the shit, like the weight loss thing, and now they advertise cheaper than ever. You can get it for as low as $25. I'm like, you getting an appetite blocker for $25 through a like commercial that you don't gotta even go see don't see a doctor, just virtual. But like, what we talk, like, and it's being sold,
yeah, man.
and we don't know what the ramifications or what the experiment is or whatever it is. Like, this could be the this could be the future that they wanted, the mind control.
Yeah,
Can we make them do what they want? Can we make them do what we tell them to do? When we
yeah,
say go get the COVID shot, Mike, nigga, do we have countries upon countries upon countries doing what the fuck we say do because we said do it?
yeah. That's a whole nother conspiracy there too. But bear with me here, because I want to give you a little bit more on the reasons why Dell continued. and none of them are good. So the first reason why it continued is because the program had already taken on a life of its own. By the time Howard Wolf's Cornell study came back and debunked the Soviet Union's brainwashing threat, MK Ultra was already running. Gottlieb had already purchased massive quantities of LSD from, excuse me, from Sandow's laboratories in Switzerland. Enough,
240,000's worth of it.
okay, 240,000, damn. So yeah, enough for millions of doses. So sub projects were active at dozens of institutions already. Researchers were funded. Safe houses were operational. The bureaucratic machinery was already in motion. So stopping it would have required Dulles to admit that he had authorized a program based on a threat that did not exist. The admission would have ended his career and potentially exposed him to legal liability. So he didn't make it. The second was that his justification shifted. This is how institutions protect themselves when. Oh, sorry, my battery's low for this. That's gonna happen.
It's all good, bro.
So the institutions. So this is how institutions protect themselves when the original reason for something stops being valid. Even if the Soviet Union didn't have brainwashing, the CIA could now justify continuing on completely different grounds. We need to know if we can do it even if they can't, becomes the reason. We need interrogation tools for the Soviet spies we capture. We need ways to influence foreign leaders, including Fidel Castro, who the CIA was actively trying to drug, discredit, and assassinate through this entire period. We need to understand human psychology limits for defense purposes in case they ever develop the capability. So it becomes, hey man, the goalpost just completely moves, and they just got to figure out a way to justify it regardless. So the program essentially remained. The original justification was replaced with a new one, and that were like essentially equally unfalsifiable. The third was that power is its own justification. Once the CIA had the ability to conduct experiments on human beings in secret with no accountability and no legal consequences, the question stopped being whether experiments were necessary to match the Soviets. The question became, what could they learn from having that capability? This is how much unchecked power works in any institution. The original mission becomes secondary to the capability itself. MKUltra was no longer about matching the Soviets. It was about what Sidney Gottlieb could discover if he had unlimited budget, no legal oversight, and access to human subjects who could not fight back. The fourth reason was the Nazi scientist problem. After World War II, the US recruited Nazi scientists under a program called Operation Paperclip. Some of those scientists had conducted human experiments in the concentration camps. Their research was now inside US government institutions. The CIA had access to methodologies developed through some of the most grotesque crimes in human history. The precedent that human experimentation without consent was now an available tool, even a scientifically useful one. It was already embedded in the institutional knowledge of the CIA was working with. So MKUltra did not emerge from nowhere. It had a lineage back to the Nazi concentration camps. And the fifth one is that, and this is the most honest answer, Dulles was not who he claimed to be in that Princeton speech at all. When he stood up and said that the Soviet brainwashing techniques were abhorrent and antithetical to American values, there's that another one, American values. I hear that one a lot. Once you hear, national security, American values, that's when your ears got to perk up. When he said it's antithetical to American values, he was already in the process of authorizing the exact same techniques to be used on American citizens. He knew that. The speech was not a policy statement. It was a cover. Public language that established a threat so the program could be justified if ever came to light. A man who genuinely believed that non-consensual human experimentation was antithetical to American values would not have signed the MKUltra authorization 3 days later. Dulles said one thing publicly and did another thing privately. The study that debunked his stated reason didn't change his actual reason, which was never about the Soviets in the first place, obviously. So When I read that, I think of, oh man, God bless those people who are right now in these immigration camps, because who knows what the fuck is going on, you know? Because we're hearing the
Yeah.
same things now. We're hearing the American values, the national security, the border crisis, all that stuff, and they're taking people off the streets with no due process and putting them in camps. Who knows what they're going through, bro? It's like you said, history repeats itself.
Yeah.
And if we know now that this conspiracy is not a conspiracy, and we say that it could still be going on today, that's the scary part, you know. So yeah,
And
and it's plausible.
and
I'll put it that way. It's
it's
plausible.
it's and but the thing about it is, and as you read that, I got a few things as well that ended up doing some research on. So as we speak about, or as you harp on those, I want to pivot just a little bit and talk about Atlee, right?
Yeah,
As you mentioned, he bought this is what has been documented and said. He bought the world's supply of LSD, the world, Craig, and distributed, like you said, through fake foundations in universities and hospitals. So he found the drug, bought it all up, brought it back, and then gave out little testers.
drug dealer, national, global drug dealer.
Oh, nigga. So when you watch Snowfall and the CIA agent gives Franklin all the dope and it's the CIA's dope, that's real, nigga, because they had real dope out on the streets from LSD. It's real. It's real. So mind you, so you mentioned you mentioned one flew over the cuckoo's nest, right?
Yeah,
Ken Casey, is that how you pronounce his name?
Ken
Who
Cassie.
wrote it? Ken Casey?
I
Yeah.
forget. I
He
forget.
was
I forget the writer's name. I don't know the writer's name.
he was one of the subjects found to have had
Oh,
it. Another subject, Robert Hunter, who was the Grateful Dead's lyricist. Another person, Allen Ginsberg, who preached LSD to a generation. The
yo,
CIA wanted to control minds and accidentally launched the 1960 counterculture to the whole purpose of why they was trying to destroy everything, my nigga.
let me show you
These
something
niggas,
real quick because I have something. I have some visual on that.
these niggas created Woodstock, boy. These niggas created.
No, you're muted, by the way. Yeah, it's a video. Oh, you don't? All right, give me 1 second. Okay, okay, I have the same video on two different places. My bad. All right. No, that you read it and then I switched over and then you were muted. But so we got that. We got that. All right. So because you were talking about Ken Kersey. I want to show a video, the part where we're discussing. So there's the dichotomy of Frank Olson and Ken Kesey.
In 1953, while attending a CIA retreat, a scientist working for the agency drank a cocktail that had been spiked with LSD. His name was Frank Olson. A few days later, on November 28, 1953, Olson allegedly committed suicide by falling from the window of a New York City hotel room. 41 years after his death, in 1994, Frank Olson's family decided to have a second autopsy performed. A forensics team discovered injuries on the body that were most likely caused before the fall. Following lengthy legal proceedings, Olson's family was awarded a $750,000 settlement and a personal apology from President Gerald Ford and the then CIA Director William Colby. And the person named for administering the LSD to Frank Olson was none other than Sidney Gottlieb, by this time known as the Black Sorcerer and Dirty Trickster. Ask yourself, if there was zero truth to the conspiracy surrounding Olson's death, why would the sitting president and CIA director give a personal apology? Why would the United States court rule to award Olson's family with what would almost be $9 million in today's money? One of the side effects of being a mad scientist like Sidney Gottlieb is being bald. Which is why today's video is sponsored by Keeps. Keeps is an online subscription service that helps men keep their hair. They offer clinically Ken Kesey, author of the 1962 novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, volunteered for MKUltra LSD experiments. Kesey later went on to promote the drug by hosting acid tests, which were LSD-fueled parties. These parties incorporated drug use with musical performances by bands such as the Grateful Dead, as well as psychedelic effects. These parties influenced the early development of hippie culture and sparked the psychedelic drug scene in the 1960s. The dichotomy of Frank Olson and Ken Kesey is, on one hand, you have a guy who could have been murdered by the CIA because of his involvement with their psychoactive drug testing, while another guy involved in similar testing went on to spark hippie culture. It wasn't just a good time for the hippies, though. Operation Midnight Climax was an MKUltra project in which government hired prostitutes enticed unsuspecting men to CIA safe houses across San Francisco, California, and New York City. The CIA would administer LSD through drinks or aerosols to the men and then observe their behavior while crushing a couple of cold ones behind a two-way mirror. It is noted that the program had little oversight and leadership. The agents involved admitted to a loose, party-like atmosphere where they themselves engaged with the prostitutes and used drugs. George White, a CIA agent working under Operation Midnight Climax, wrote to Sidney Gottlieb in 1971, stating, "Of course, I was a very minor missionary, actually a heretic, but I toiled wholeheartedly in the vineyards because it was
fun, fun, fun. Where else could a red-blooded American boy lie, kill, and cheat, steal, deceive, rape, and pillage, with the sanction and blessing of the All-Highest?"
It would be sooner than later that the truth would be revealed, and the intelligence communities would be made to answer for their illegal and inhumane enterprise. You see, in 1972, the Watergate scandal triggered paranoia amongst Washington.
So yeah, sorry, yeah, we were muted for a little bit because I wanted to see to get through that video. Because Chris, you were mentioning the Ken Kesey thing, and yeah, man, he was a subject of that, so he would be, you know, one of those guys who could, um, one of those guys who could,
Influence
write,
the coach.
influence the culture, and also write something like that. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with first-hand knowledge,
Exactly.
Um, So, but then you have the Frank Olson, which is the other version, is the guy got thrown out of a window apparently by the CIA because he knew too much. So one guy, they unintentionally, gave him LSD, created a whole counterculture, you know, created a movement that was about peace and love, and they found, because LSD honestly does, I think, reveal things to you that are real about reality. I do think that it caused, like, we talk about DMT and the humanity and like what this whole experience called life is about. And that whole hippie movement, LSD was a big deal about that because it put you in a state of consciousness that It wasn't about these material objects, and that's where we got that hippie movement, which is kind of crazy because you wanted to control people, but you created a movement that was all about freedom, which is ironic.
Yeah, I mean, but realistically, we also have to identify the horror stories of those trips, right?
True.
You know what I'm saying? I think I think you have to, we talk about Whitey Burglar, right? The Boston Irish mob boss who murdered people for decades was given LSD
Mm,
almost daily for 15 months in Atlanta prison as part of MKUltra.
fuck.
So he came home and had the nightmarish hallucinations and just started being one of the most Americans, most notorious gangsters. So like they dosed my nigga for 15 months and told him it was medicine. That nigga came home and started clapping niggas.
He was a serial
Like
killer.
became a serial killer, bro. And also you want to say the fun thing.
Yeah, that guy, man.
Bro, but they organized the brothel,
Yeah,
cuz.
they did to test unknowing patrons.
Nigga,
Yo, so
with aerosol.
oh
With
my
aerosol and
god,
spiking the drink, my nigga. That's what our government did, bro. That's no. That's what your government did, nigga.
mine.
Yeah, man. That's that's your government did,
That's what
man.
your
I
government
can't.
did too.
Yeah, you're right.
But
You're right.
when it comes to it, when the guy says fun, it's like you have no oversight. He gets to sleep with the prostitutes himself. You got unrestricted funds. You're drinking beer while you're drugging these guys behind a freaking double glass mirror, and they had a very cavalier attitude about it. They wasn't taking it serious.
And so like when you think about the duality, right? So we talked about like so and Gottlieb again is somebody if you'll allow me a little bit as we talk about he never went to jail, bro.
Yeah, I'm about to get to the video, the
I-
end of this whole
oh,
thing, but I want you.
they have it.
But you're
Okay,
right. No. I want you to continue. But we'll talk. We'll show you after this. You say
like
what you gotta say.
like
Yeah.
and I want y'all to understand me and the homie we do some pre-pro, but I don't know what he had and he don't know what I had, so the fact that we are like this is why we are like this. Like that's my dog, you feel me?
For
So
sure.
like we didn't, like, no lie, we did not pre-pro this show, you know what I'm saying? So like, but yeah, the guy was able to retire. Like so like he tortured people for decades. He burned files, got rid of evidence, and created two cultures, because that hippie culture was not all good, right? It was the best part about what he created, but we also are talking about the atrocities where the seven black men were given LSD for 77 consecutive days. Seven drug addicted black men at the National Institute of Mental Health Addiction Research Center in Kentucky were administered LSD continuously for 77 straight days. They were
What?
bribed. They were bribed with more offers of heroin. So they were addicted, and they used their addiction to bribe them for them to do this. There was no long-term outcome data that exists from any of the surviving files. This was categorized as expendable, right? Names that were none of it was public record, of course, and the CIA gets to dispose of people who can't fight back. And now we're not even just talking about the United States. Our good people in Canada, they had Canadian patients who came in for postpartum depression. So these were women that went to Dr. Cameron's clinic for anxiety, postpartum, and minor conditions, and they came out unable to remember their children's name, unable to talk, unable to control their bowels. One patient's son, Lloyd Shirer, went to visit his mom in the hospital as a 5-year-old. He described it like seeing a scene from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, nigga, as a quote. So you see the thread of what we're talking about here and how this affected so many people across so many parts of this nation. He said, I could never and will never know what I could have been.
Damn.
Canada initially rejected 250 plus victims for compensation because they weren't tortured enough.
That's fucked up, bro.
So yeah, let's go ahead and see this fuck boy, Sidney Gottlieb. Also, and I don't know if this is in your video, but I do not want to forget this nigga. This Gottlieb nigga was a man, a Jewish man who worked with Nazi scientists. Just so we can let that land a little bit.
Yo, this is sick, bro. He's like he's a monster. He's a monster. These are what monsters are made of, bro.
And he get to retire and fucking grow Christmas trees. That's what he was able to do. That's what he got to retire in rural Virginia and write poetry and died at 80 years old, bro. That's what he was able to do.
And the already weary American people. This led to newly appointed CIA Director Richard Helms ordering all MKUltra files destroyed, coupled with anecdotal stories such as US Army servicemen spying on civilians spread, eventually culminating in a New York Times article by Seymour Hersh in 1974. Seymour Hersh was already a well-known investigator, as he gained worldwide recognition for covering the Watergate scandal and by exposing the My Lai massacre, for which he was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for international reporting. Many elected officials, journalists, whistleblowers, and investigators, like Seymour Hersh, were following a rat's trail that eventually led them to an entire den. Hersh's New York Times article claimed the CIA had violated its charter by spying on anti-war activists. His story is credited as a major factor in the establishment of the Church Committee, which was created to investigate illegal federal intelligence operations. However, it ended up taking the combined might of the Church Committee, Pike Committee, and Rockefeller Commission to find the truth of MKUltra, after discovering documents that failed to be destroyed in Helms's purge. These three forces would pressure not only the CIA, but the NSA, FBI, and IRS to answer for any wrongdoing or illegal activity. Thus, in 1976, 3 years after MKUltra was halted, Executive Order 11905 was drafted and signed by President Gerald Ford after the Church Committee and Pike Committee revealed classified information concerning the United States. This executive order would be an effort to outlaw, restructure, and reform much of the intelligence community, creating greater checks and balances to ensure that any and all activities are in conformity with the Constitution and United States laws. Even people to this day are still concerned that this was not enough justice, and that intelligence agencies still work above the law.
I haven't worried about it. Your question again, what would I have thought had I known that
Any of these substances
would have been given to
unwitting persons?
You mean a hostile agent of another government?
No, I mean,
that was probably one of the things they had in mind.
I mean, testing it out on an American citizen.
I guess I must seem very, very cold-blooded about this, but I don't recall ever having been very much preoccupied with that issue.
The national security.
How?
Bro, they are able to lie so bad, and we just take
How?
piss on their face and call it is raining, my nigga. So when you say we grow into a docile, sheepish, cattle-like society, when at the highest and the peak of real end time shit was happening, and people was getting called out for it, and people were being paid off for it, and the government was admitting to it without admitting to it, nothing happens. Nobody's held accountable. You know, and a lot of people look over what the CIA did because they gave LSD and John Lennon and the Beatles' whole catalog is a CIA origin story, nigga. You know, that's why a lot of people just bypass it, because LSD created some of the greatest art, some of the greatest music, some of the greatest experiences. So then you
There's a
start to
duality and a yin and yang to everything in life. You can always do it, but
exactly,
is the truth worth the squeeze? And I'll ask y'all, is the truth worth the squeeze? I would say
mm,
absolutely not. I don't give no fuck
mm,
about no Beetle revolution or freedom, peace. If the people are going to suffer and have their life destroyed, people died, people lost their mom
bro,
and they turn people crazy.
bro.
They created like serial killers. People died
That's
that had nothing to do with the fucking, that had nothing to do with the experiments. Ended up dying because of the experiments, because of these. Did people think that Jeffrey Dahmer, not Jeffrey Dahmer, sorry, Charles Manson, they think that he might have been a patient, and that caused him to go crazy and do everything he did. Um, so yeah, man, like you mentioned, Sidney Gottlieb was never went to jail because he systematically destroyed the vast majority of CIA's MKUltra records before retiring, giving him plausible deniability, and subsequently secured a full legal immunity from the U.S. government in exchange for his testimony, which is crazy.
yep, exactly. So he again 2 decades worth of stuff, and he's a so but this is so cheaty. You know, when we say like so, for everybody that's with us, we appreciate y'all being with us. Honestly, thank y'all for joining with us for our first episode of Conspiracy Corner. We thank y'all. Please like and subscribe. We really do appreciate that. As we are communicating right now, Chidi, and that question that we wanted to ask is, do you think they have stopped? I want to ask you because we got some real fact check things that can make it real that they haven't. So I just want to ask you, do you think that they have stopped?
Well, before I answer that question, let's finish this video, and
Okay.
and then I'll answer because I want you to see something real quick. I want y'all to
Go
see
ahead, brother.
something.
Any time could be turned around on the American people, and no American would have any privacy left. Such is the capability to monitor everything. Telephone conversations, telegrams, it doesn't matter. There would be no place to hide. If a dictator ever took over, the NSA could enable it to impose total tyranny, and there would be no way to fight back. Frank Church, founder of the Church Committee. Today, MKUltra methods and stories have been glorified in pop culture. For example, the show Stranger Things is based off of the Montauk Project, which may not be true, but shares great similarities with MKUltra. Themes of mind control, manipulation, and tall men in suits coming to take you away. Another reference is The Truman Show, where, spoiler alert, Jim Carrey as Truman Burbank lives in a fake world constantly being manipulated, recorded, and probably drugged. On social media, conspiracy theorists believe prominent celebrities and figures such as Lady Gaga and Bill Clinton are speculated to have been affected by MKUltra hypnosis. Though this is from TikTok, so before your eyes melt through your sockets, we'll move on to an astronaut named Heidi Marie Stefansson Piper, who fainted during a press conference, supposedly being hypnotized before she could reveal secrets on UFOs. Though these references to MKUltra are enjoyable, they are loosely based in reality. A more modern and popular rumor that surrounds MKUltra is whether or not cult leader Charles Manson was a byproduct of CIA psychoactive substance testing. I mean, you take one look at the guy and you know he's mentally boiled. There was also Ted Kaczynski, known as the Unabomber, who allegedly took part in a Harvard LSD study overseen by the CIA and professor at Harvard University, Henry A. Murray. Ted took part in intense mock interrogations designed to assess limits of psychological breaking points. From 1978 to 1995, the Unabomber would later go on to create increasingly sophisticated bombs and mail them out to people, resulting in 3 people being killed and 23 others injured. It begs the question, was this violence a result of the manipulation and arguable torture Ted endured? There is no way of knowing if the CIA has stopped all illegal domestic activity against civilians. MKUltra may have evolved or rebranded itself, hidden deep within the CIA web, where no one would dare enter. One can speculate that CIA counterintelligence strategies have become more desperate and covert, adding to the fear that there may be some project out there worse than MKUltra. After all, science and technology have only advanced since the 1950s. If contemporary projects similar to MKUltra were to get green-lit, they would without a doubt be more effective and efficient.
You asked me, do I think that they stopped? What would make me believe that they fucking stopped? That's what I had to ask you and ask everybody listening. They bro, they deleted and removed all evidence and destroyed so much evidence and let the dude get off and gave him a pension and retirement and he got to do poetry, bro.
And immunity.
And immunity, and especially immunity.
And immunity.
That tells me that they're all in on it, and there's no real justice.
It's no real justice, and it's no incentivization for them if they wanted to practice and see how far mind control can go. There is no reason why they wouldn't try to control a society. There's no reason why now, when we're talking about, again, MKUltra happened. This is documented, confirmed. This happened. The CIA destroyed files specifically to protect powerful people from prosecution.
Exactly.
You see how we got the pushing P's right there, my nigga. Listen, this is real too.
Say that one more time. Powerful people from
protected powerful people from prosecution. The CIA destroyed files. Yeah. Yes, Mike. Yeah, shout out to our helper.
You got that PPP loan.
That PPP. AirPods with the EEG brainwave patents are the technological descendant of what MKUltra was trying to do manually.
Really? We were just talking about the AirPods the other day.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
will never wear AirPods a day in my life anymore. I can't. After knowing this, that they can read your fucking mind.
They can read your brainwaves, bro. And this is the most important thing that makes me believe that I know that we are living in this and we are controlled. And this is why we have to stay diligent and knowledgeable and trying our best to legitimately make this a reality of fighting back when we can. Social media Algorithmic recommendation systems are a form of mass behavioral modification without consent. So, like right now, again, Project Bluebird, social media algorithmic recommendation systems is behavior modification without your consent. You pick up this app, you get on Twitter, you instantly feel whatever the algorithm tell you to feel. Whether you angry, whether you want to be divisive, whether you want to argue, whether you horny, nigga, it got whatever it, cause your brain waves has already been reading to what the fuck they gonna tell you to be on your phone, cause it's all connected through Bluetooth connectivity.
Oh. And they got everybody to willingly use all these things.
We have to
Um,
use Google. So they know our location. They know our map. We use Google Maps. They know They know what they. We're all. It's it.
shit. I'm about to be off the grid. That's all my kids. Yo, come on, man. Like this shit is crazy. The more and more you learn, the more and more you're like, yo, let me get the fuck off this earth, yo. Let me go live in the fucking wilderness. This is nuts. Oh my god,
Yeah,
bro.
man. Yeah, brother. That's pretty wicked, bro. That's pretty wicked, man.
Wicked, wicked, wicked,
So
wicked, bro.
man.
Wicked, bro. Um, man, this is just conspiracy corner one. Good lord, smack you in the
Yeah.
face with this shit, bro. This is
you
sad,
you
bro.
it's sad, but it's enlightening. It's very is it's things that you need to know.
I think the lar
You
the
need to
I'm
be validated
here's
with
what
the
I'll say.
thought.
I think that what if you're watching this, I want you to take from this the extent the government can go to control. It's not like we talk about the government's role. What's the role of the government? Is to control. It's to control us. It's not to
Yeah.
make our lives better. It's not to make sure
Yes.
that we're protected. You know,
From the beginning of time.
it's
From
just
the
to
beginning of
control
yes, to
and
control.
power.
Yep.
And if you start to look at it from that angle, all this shit makes sense. You know, I don't know. I do not know how we, counteract the controlling nature of the people in power. It seems to be a bunch of old white men. I'm sorry, but I'm not trying to be like pigeonholing it, but I just wonder if we were to have other people of all types of races, creeds, cultures, genders, collectively trying to improve this world, what the world would be look like. And there was nobody that said, "Hey, we should stop doing this." Nobody said, "Hey, we're harming our citizens." And the guy said it. He never crossed his mind. Get the fuck out of here, yo. You knew exactly what you were doing. And then y'all gave all them these guys immunity after this. This is torture. This is the worst kinds of torture that you guys learned from the Nazis in Germany in the concentration camps. And then you guys said, you know what? Let's take that and do it on our own people. That's so much. That's a monster shit. That's so reprehensible that I can't even fathom the place in hell for these people. No one man should have all that power, but if you do have a lot of power, understand that power comes with great responsibility. I know it's a Spider-Man quote, but it means so much. Great power comes with such great responsibility, and how you wield that. And these guys were weak men. They were weak men who operated off of fear. And I just want real men to stand up and operate from a place of power, a place of true love for the people that they are, you know, in government to protect and increase the quality of life for people. That's all I'm trying to. That's all I wish and pray for. But obviously, I know that I might be too wishful thinking with that when it comes to that, and that shit that day may never come. I may leave this earth before a day comes when people who are in power actually start to really turn the corner and say, you know what, power ain't the biggest thing in the world. It like this power and more control is not the answer to makes you who you are as a human being. That is not the testament of true power. That's not the testament of true um, honor in this thing we call life to me. And I hope one day we all can recognize that.
Well, I think one of the biggest things that, helps us call power to power, powers get checked by power. So, when we look at the congressional testimony from just a couple of days ago, Stephen Kinzer, he he speaks. Gottlieb had what amounted to a license to kill issued by the U.S. government. Neither the number of MK Ultra victims nor the number of those who were experimented to death is known. That's a quote. Um, a few other another quote that he spoke of on that same congressional testimony. In its search for ways to destroy the human mind and body, MK Ultra conducted the most extreme experiment on human beings that have ever been carried out by a U.S. government agency. By any standard, they qualified as medical torture. The emergence of the covert sphere in America is the basis of all conspiracy theories. The very existence of MKUltra is an example of how far our intelligence agencies are willing to go when they feel they're under stress and need to produce results. So, when we're talking about what Trump is doing and stripping away agencies, and we saying they directly answer to whoever the president is, like you, right? If we are saying control 77 million people to vote for a dumbass nigga because we got some money tied up in all types of shit that we got going on. We got fake crypto here. We got meme coins here. We got conglomerates trying to converge here. We need the signature on. We need him to put this person in place here. We're like, we just talked about the motherfucking Project 2025 of all the things that he is doing, mirroring the project that are detrimental to the American populace.
Yeah. Um, um, it's crazy because, and before I get to the Trump connection, Sidney Gottlieb, um, the person who authorized and oversaw 20 years of this human experimentation, he called the effort useless before he died. After all that, not partially successful, not a mixed result, useless. His word. So the CIA spent 20 years torturing people, destroying minds, killing at least one of their own employees, and running fake brothels where they drugged strangers through two-way mirrors. And at the end of it, they could not make anyone do anything reliably. They could not create a truth serum. They could not program a person to act against their will. They could not erase and rebuild a human mind. They could not create what the movies call a Manchurian candidate, a person who has been secretly programmed to do something on command. The human mind turned out to be more resilient and more unpredictable than the CIA imagined. Every drug produced different results in different people. LSD made some people euphoric, some people terrified, some people catatonic. You could not control the outcome. You could not control what someone said or did while they were on it. You could not control what they remembered afterward. The CIA's own Inspector General concluded in 1963 10 years into the program that many of the experiments made little scientific sense and were being carried out by people with almost no medical experience, no medical expertise, and zero ethical oversight.
Mm.
In other words, people they tortured died and suffered for nothing. The goal was never achieved. The program failed. But here's where it kind of gets a little bit more strange. Some things did come out of MK Ultra. None of them were what the CIA intended, and none of them may be the most ironic outcome in the history of human government programs. Unintended consequences number one, the CN, like you mentioned before, the CIA accidentally started the 1960s counterculture. Um, unintended consequence number two, modern psychedelic medicine. In the 1970s, MKUltra exposed the U.S. government classified LSD and most psychedelics as Schedule 1 drugs, meaning no medical value, no approved research, no legitimate use. 50 years of research got shut down overnight because of how the CIA handed poison, how the CIA had poisoned the public conversation around these substances. Here's the irony of that decision. Those same substances, LSD, psilocybin from mushrooms, MDMA, are now in the clinical test trials at Johns Hopkins, NYU, Imperial College in London, and dozens of other institutions. The results are some of the most remarkable in modern psychiatry. MDMA, which most people know as ecstasy, is currently in phase 3 FDA clinical trials for PTSD. The results show that after just 2 or 3 guided sessions, people who have PTSD for decades, combat veterans, sexual assault survivors, people whom every other treatment has failed, are showing remission rates that no existing medication or therapy has ever come close to. The
Mm.
FDA has they have it under priority review right now. Psilocybin, the active compound in magic mushrooms, has shown to control clinical has shown in controlled clinical sessions that a single guided session can produce significant and lasting relief from treatment resistant depression, meaning depression that has not been responded to years with antidepressants or therapy. A single session, that's it, and effects would last months to years. And then we have ketamine, which is already FDA approved for treatment
Yep.
resistant depression, and is being administered in clinics across the country.
Yep.
So the substances CIA spent 20 years trying to weaponize for mind control are turning out to be some of the most effective treatments for mental illness that medicine has ever found. So when used carefully and consensually with therapeutic support, everything the CIA tried to do with force, trauma, secrecy, these substances can apparently do with intention, consent, and care. It can do miraculous things for people in certain situations, certain dealing with certain medical or mental health, sort of, issues. So we lost 50 years of research on the medicines because MK Ultra poisoned the conversation essentially. So it kind of did more harm with these drugs than we could have done by now. We could have gone a lot further with these drugs when it comes to research. So the people who suffered under MK Ultra died and were tortured in part so that a generation of patients with PTSD and depression could be denied access to treatments that might have helped them because a government that hurt people with these substances in the secret then banned them publicly. Uh, that's essentially the full circle of the damage they did. So the unintended consequence number three of this is that the legal and ethical reforms that protect you today. So the exposure of MK Ultra through Church Committee hearings in 1977 directly produced some of the strongest legal protections for human research subjects that currently exist in American law. The Belmont Report, published in 1979 by the National Commission for Protection of Human Subjects and Biomedical and Behavioral Research, established 3 core principles that govern all federally funded research on human beings to this day. Respect for the persons, meaning informed consent is required. Uh, Beneficence, meaning researchers must protect subjects from harm, and justice, meaning that benefits and burdens of research must be distributed fairly. The last principle, justice, exists specifically because of what MKUltra revealed about who gets experimented on without their
Yep.
knowledge. The
Yep.
prisoners, the drug addicts, the mental patients, the sex workers, the people the system had already decided didn't matter. The
Yep.
Belmont Report was written explicitly to prevent that selection criteria from ever being used again. Those protections are not perfect. They have been violated since, but they exist because MKUltra happened, and because Congress saw what happened and decided it could not happen again without legal consequences. The Church Committee investigation also produced a permanent Senate and House intelligence committees that now provide at least some ongoing oversight of the CIA. Before MKUltra was exposed, there was almost none. That oversight is imperfect and has been weakened over time, as we see today, but it exists because of what was done in those sub projects. So the CIA spent 20 years torturing people to learn how to control the human mind. What they actually learned is that you can't. The human mind resists control in ways that 2 decades of experiments with LSD, electroshock, sleep deprivation could not overcome. The man who ran the program called the whole thing useless. The people who got hurt got nothing, and the drug the CIA bought the entire world's supply of to weaponize ended up accidentally starting a peace movement that opposed everything the CIA believed in. Uh, you genuinely cannot make this shit up. Yeah, so that's a little bit on what is I want to find out the positives of what came from this, and obviously that's what came up, and there's some things there, but it's like I always say, there's a juice worth the squeeze, and I never want to put somebody's experience here on Earth through that trauma just for what we got, because we could have gotten there in a less traumatic way, you know, and people didn't have to die.
Absolutely. Um,
But yeah, tying back to Trump, as you were mentioning, is that he's now rolling back these, oversight committees, rolling back the accountability that these places that so he's like only in control. And we all know one man with all that power will not do what's right, especially under this regime where we know people. I don't even want to trust any regime. No one man with all the power is going to do everything right, and it could roll back these checks and balances for the CIA for things like this to continue to happen. So I don't want everyone to be lost on people.
and again, this was not supposed to be a history lesson for everybody. We wanted to lead off with what really happened. And what really happened was 40 boxes of files were removed because they survived accidentally and it made news in 2026.
Yes.
All right. MK Ultra was back in the news, not because of us, nigga, because of them niggas.
Do you know what is going to happen from the hearings, or is it going to continue the hearings, or what's coming up next?
Uh, I have no idea as of right now where they are at with that.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. I can
I can
try
even
to
do a
look
little
that
research
up.
myself.
Okay, okay.
But
Yeah,
if you get it first, we'll see who gets it first.
I bet. All right.
Real time research, guys. I want to let y'all know what's going on with these hearings.
Again, because it's not supposed to be like but with again, MK Ultra's been around for as long uh as 19, what we say, 19 fucking 53,
Yeah, man.
1953.
This is way before we were
Um,
born. We're born into this world that's corrupted, and we just gotta deal with the realities of it. The current status of MKUltra hearing centers on newly initiated push for complete declassification, with the House Oversight Committee actively grilling historians, authors, and health officials about missing records. It's led by the
yes.
Task Force on Declassification of Federal Secrets,
What else
a
is
high
this?
profile congressional hearing titled Mind Control and Accountability, uncovering the truth of the CIA's MKUltra project, was held on June 30th, 2026. The primary objectives and status updates emerging from these latest updates conclude One, they demand for missing documents through declassification. Two, investigating interagency cover and foreign camps.
Yep.
Three, alleged links to historical crimes. And four, what happens next is there's going to be a broader investigation. This hearing is open to opening salvo of a broader 6 month legislative push by the task force to tackle historical government cover ups. The committee expects to roll these findings into an ongoing investigations regarding transparency around JFK assassination records, UAPs, I guess that's unidentified flying objects. I think that's something with aliens, and public health agency accountability. Forthcoming records. Representative Luna publicly promised that additional MKUltra documents will be subpoenaed and forced into public domain, stating that victims' families are legally entitled to a completely federal record. Hey, Miss Luna, I guess we can agree on that. I guess we can agree on that. I mean, hopefully you didn't use
Did you?
Claude for that.
Hey, hopefully use. I mean, it sounds like she used she used the wrong AI to get the wrong. That's why she got fucked up, nigga. They said we said use Grok. It gives you the most savage. You know what I'm saying? She used Claude and fucked it, put it in legislation, and now she got to stand behind it because she stamped it.
Yeah, man. Luna, man. God, God.
Shout out to Luna making the grave mistake of using a fucking.
Listen, man, I can't even hate Halsey. We use it too. Honestly, you're gonna use it on use Claude, but that savage response was so gay. Sorry.
That savage. It was so.
I mean,
It
it's
was
not.
so
It's
savage.
past. It's not June anymore. It was. It was. It was not worth. It's not. We didn't need that shit.
The juice was not worth the squeeze. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
exactly. The juice is not worth the squeeze.
But I think they're to your point, they're pushing for less redaction and tracking missing files, right? I think that's going to be one of the biggest things that we're going to try to see, and I think it's going to, the most important thing about implementing guardrails against modern replications is that we have to again vote, you guys. Right? We have to vote.
Yeah.
We have to vote. We have to vote. If we are able to put some regular some regulations on the executive orders being signed, push back. If we're able to be able to if we're able to have some idea of what it means to say your government should not have autonomy to read your brain waves and then make you buy shit and make niggas trillionaires by buying stuff online and
No, I
people
saw
are working
people.
in like
Oh my God. Yeah, I saw people on Facebook today. Oh my God, bro. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like it pissed me so off so much, so much. That's why I don't go on Facebook. Some people on Facebook just die hard defending trillionaires. Oh, trillionaires provide jobs to people, and they work so hard. I'm like, guys, you are so lost. A trillion we're talking about here, guys. A trillion. They shouldn't even have a billion, but a
a,
trillion. Get the fuck
a
out.
trillion. Like what we talking
At
about?
some point, you got to understand that money is a man-made creation. So we can make limits on this thing, so we have better society. You don't want these guys controlling everything. You don't want somebody controlling them. You don't want a master of the universe, guys. I'm sorry, but I'm going on a separate tangent. These niggas are trying to create Skeletor in this bitch. Somebody who can match. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh man, I think let's try to on if we can, less. It's tough once we enter Trump in the conversation. You know what I'm saying? But let's try to let me see if I can find a funny video to
Oh
show
god.
you what I be talking about sometimes. So see if I can show much. Okay. Maybe I'll just send it to you on Discord. How about that? Because
Okay.
sometimes it's in there right now. Or damn, I don't know if you'll have to log in to see it, but it's from Facebook.
Can't stand Facebook.
But it's the silicone mask that I want, and we'll wrap the show up with that. So I just want to see that in
I've
real
seen these
time.
before. Yeah, I've seen these
Are you
before.
seeing those before? Yeah,
Yeah.
but those some people are saying those are CIA inventions. That's how they become covert and change their identity, or present themselves at those fucking functions as nonprofit organizations and shit like that. Just so if people have never seen it before, we can let them see
Yeah.
it.
This is creepy. This is creepy. Yeah. Um, I think that yeah, this is definitely these by people. For all we know, Charlie Kirk is out there wearing one of these.
Oh, not the Wagster, not the
Listen,
Kirkster.
I'm just sharing a little teaser from our maybe one of our next conspiracy corners. You know, you might have to go with the Kirk. Like, there's a lot of shit with that dude. But yeah, man. Anything else you got to talk about before we get up out of here, man? Anything you just want to leave these people with, other than the mask? Obviously, yeah. I think that we're at this place right now where we gotta be diligent on the Bluetooth situation. We gotta be aware of what's going on with that. We gotta be aware of what's going on with these masks, and that shit was weird, creepy as hell. Um,
Change your algorithm on Twitter. If you want to use Blue Sky, if you want to go on Threads, you know what I'm saying. Change up how you interact with these social media algorithmic recommendations
yeah.
that they have for you
Trying
put
to get
in
on
place.
Proton Mail. If y'all can, leave Gmail, go to Proton. I mean, I know we couldn't because we fucking got to do this pod, but um, you know, y'all can do
No, we
it.
we still could have did it. We just would have had to pay some Brentskis. That's what it
No.
was. Yeah, and because we would have we can run Proton through it, but we would just had to go through more steps to
Okay.
do it to stream up on. But at the same time, we still would have needed some money because they don't have as much space as Google gives us. Gives us 2 terabytes, sometimes for $3 a month. You know what I mean? So that's
Well,
pretty.
y'all can definitely use it. I'll just say that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Proton.
Or
But yeah,
when we,
just be conscious of where you are putting your
or y'all
money
can
and putting your
start
time, and
donating now, and then we can use it, and then we can start promoting it for real, and then be
yeah,
like, yeah,
definitely like, subscribe, do all that shit, and hey, donate. Fuck it, hype us up, hype me
oh
up,
me, hype
hype
me
me
up,
up.
hype me up.
But yeah, man, just be very aware, because when we talk about conspiracy, this was obviously not a theory, you know, and had real
Yes,
impacts on real people, and that's why there's a hearing in Congress right now. So shout out to them. Hopefully they get some kind of justice for these people, and we got to just stay more diligent on our awareness. But one thing I do think, I'll leave y'all with this. Listen, they weren't able to be successful, which is actually a good thing. It was unsuccessful from their own metrics, and
come
that
on.
tells me something about the human spirit, about the human mind, about something that what's in all of us is that they can't control us. So there's hope. As much as they want to do the Airbuzz and the social media, you have control over your attention span, over what you do with your your life and your mind, and how you control where you put your time and money towards. So if we control that to collectively, we can do miraculous things to counteract these evil people who want to control everything about how you live. So we got to come together with some good people. Anything else you want to say?
No, I can't follow that up, brother.
All right, guys. We'll see y'all next week.
I'll fuck it up.
We'll see y'all next week, man. We are Everything Is Podcast. We are the Zeitgeist. We are the culture. I'm your host, Shitty Bang. That's Chris the Most High. We'll see y'all next week. Definitely subscribe, follow, do all that good shit. The bell icon. We'll see y'all next week. Peace out.